That's right. Joining us from the Wells Fargo Center, it is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, thoughts on the game and any standout comments from the post-game availabilities?
Yeah. The players were pretty tight-lipped, understandably so. It was a frustrating game. You know, they come close. I thought there were moments in those last few minutes where I thought they had the game. You know, at least had a point. You know, it looked like they were buzzing, looked like they were ready to break through and tie the game, and they came real close. You know, Owen Tippett has an opportunity, Sam Girard deflects it right near the net, you know, that was staring at a wide-open net, so they got close. But I thought John Tortorella's comments after the game were probably the most interesting because it seemed kind of like he was battling with himself in terms of, you know, coming at it from two different angles of analysis. Because angle number one, and he straight up said it, he said, look, that team over there, that's an elite team. That's what we're aiming for, and we're not there. You know, we're not as quick as they are. We're not as talented as they are, and we know that. And ultimately, that's the reason why we struggle with their quickness. And then I followed up, and I was like, that's fair, but after Owen Tippett scores that goal, you guys didn't seem like you were having any trouble with their quickness. If anything, you guys were outplaying them and outskating them. And John Tortorella basically said, you're right, and I don't know why. And then he said he had a really, really good money quote because he started bringing up the mistakes that the team made in the game. He brought up, Bobby Brink's penalty that kills most of the 4-minute penalty.
Yep.
I think Tyson Forrester had a penalty that he mentioned, a high sticking penalty. Travis Konechny, it was one thing that Travis Konechny did say after the game that was eye opening. He, without prompting, took all the blame for Colorado's first goal. That he blew the coverage and he feels terrible about it. And one of the reporters brought that up to Tortorella, and Tortorella basically said, yeah, he should feel terrible about it because it was a dumb play, and we expect more out of Travis Konechny than to chase the best player in the world and leave another guy wide open. And what he essentially said, what the quote John Tortorella said was, he's like, you know, a lot of the game I liked as we kept on going, but goddamn, do we do stupid stuff. It's just so aggravating, the stuff that we do that should be out of our game. And I think that's the push-pull. Like, Torts on some level wants to just say Colorado's just better. And they are. They are just better than the Flyers. However, if the Flyers were to remove all of the dumb stuff from their game, they might have won this one. They might have won this one despite the fact that the Avalanche are a better team than them. And I think that's the push-pull frustration, you know, both from Tortorella and from, I suspect, the fans. Because, yeah, the fans know that the Avs are a better team than the Flyers. The Avs have a chance to win the Cup. The Flyers, you know, if all breaks right, they might make the playoffs. That said, they were in this game. And, yeah, they're in this game because they make a push in the third period. But if they don't make those mistakes, maybe they don't need to make the push in the third period. Maybe it's a 1-goal game instead of a 3-goal game, and all you need is one Owen Tippett wrist shot late in the third, just like they got against Tampa, and then the game goes in overtime and you can win it in a shootout. So, yes, Colorado's better, but the Flyers made a lot of mistakes that made it easy for them to get the kind of lead that they got.
Charlie, real odd occurrence during the game tonight. Referee Mitch Dunning gets into a collision with Josh Manson, ends up being stretchered off. Very scary moment, honestly. Yeah. It was tough. At one point, I think Ashlyn Sullivan called it a serious back injury. I'm not sure if there's been some updates, and he's neurological things are right, and he's got movement in his extremities and stuff. So at least like disaster has been averted. But I just want to know if you've ever been part of like something where this odd, where a referee gets carted off, and did the boys mention like there being any difficulty in having to like rev it back up after a prolonged stoppage?
Yeah, I'll be honest. The guys really weren't asked about the issue. I think it was more of a topic for the Colorado locker room. Number one, because they won, so it's easier to talk to guys who are in a good mood. Number two, because it was Josh Manson, a Colorado player who has the collision. So they were asked more about that. I noticed that the energy in the arena got sucked out for a good 5-6 minutes after the play. Understandably so. Have I dealt with anything like this? No, I really haven't dealt with an official. Like I've covered games where officials got hurt.
Yeah.
You know, where there was a collision and a guy gets helped off the ice. I've never been to a game where the official got stretchered off the ice. That was a new one. According to the NHL PR, it seems like things are relatively okay. John Tortorella said that he was told, and this was, I think, what really scared them, and probably why he went to the hospital, why they're taking very, close care of him is that apparently, according to Tortorella, he couldn't feel his arms.
Oh.
So that was, I think, the fear. Like, it seemed like he could move them, but he had lost feeling in them. So that is the concern about, is it a spinal injury or something like that? So, all thoughts to him. I'm hoping he's doing okay. I'm sure everyone is. It was scary. Seems like he's avoided, like paralysis, I guess, fingers crossed. That said, not being able to feel your arms, that doesn't happen randomly. Like something is wrong, and hopefully it can be medically addressed and fixed.
Chuck, it was Aleksei Kolosov's third start, fourth appearance tonight. What did you think of his game?
Meh. It's funny. Like, John Tortorella was very complimentary of it. And there were a few people on Twitter that like hit me with mentions of how great they thought he played. I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was incredible. The thing with Kolosov is, like, he does look better than Fedotov because it's not as choppy. He doesn't have those moments where he just looks bad in the way that Fedotov does. That said, like, gave up 3 goals. One of those goals was like a low shot that never even left the ice, and I don't think got deflected. Like, I don't know. I'd like for him to squeeze that one. I don't think he was bad. Like, he was fine. He was not the reason why they lost this game. I also don't think he was so good that I think he should jump Fedotov back in the order again. So, I'm going to write about him in my piece after the game, but don't really have a lot to say other than meh. Like, he was okay. He didn't have the kind of game that I'm like, oh man, he's forced his way back into the into the battle for starts. Like, no, when Sam Erson's back, he's the number one, and I'm Fedotov for the last 3 games has been quite good, and I think he's earned. This game did nothing to change my opinion that Fedotov should be above Kolosov in the pecking order, and Kolosov probably would be best served going down to the AHL. Now, whether he is willing to go to the AHL is another story entirely, and I have an issue with the idea of like, well, we have to keep him up because this kid is strong-arming us into keeping him up. Like, I have an inherent problem with that, especially when Fedotov is playing pretty well. That said, they might just try to keep kicking the can down the road because if Fedotov turns back into a pumpkin, it's good to have a backup plan in Kolosov. And if he goes back to the KHL, you no longer have that backup plan. Then your backup plan is, I guess now it's Cal Peterson because Makaniemi got banged up in the last game for the Phantoms. So it probably makes sense to just sort of keep kicking the can down the road and hope that something cracks. But if Fedotov keeps playing as solid as he's been playing, to me, I don't think Kolosov showed enough tonight that he should jump back ahead of Fedotov. That's my opinion.
I'm telling you, Charlie, Parker Gagan, he's going to get a start this year.
He doesn't even have an NHL contract. They have to sign him to a contract to get him a start.
Are you making up names?
Yes, I am.
I thought that was a made-up name.
Speaking of the Phantoms, Chuck, Helge Grans makes his NHL debut tonight, did some positive things, picks up his first career point with an assist. What did you see out of the Flyers' latest call-up?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, I thought, honestly, for the most part in the first 2 periods, he didn't jump out at me as, like, especially great. He just wasn't jumping out at me negatively. He was having one of those classic, like, if I'm not noticing him, he must be having a pretty good game because he's not making mistakes. And then there were other guys on the defense that were making mistakes. So it's like, well, I guess if you're ranking the guys, he's pretty high up. Then Yegor Zamula gets banged up, so he's out of the rotation. And they start giving Grans more shifts. He gets the first shift of the third period with Travis Sanheim. I think he ended up finishing third in ice time among defensemen on the team with about 16 minutes. John Tortorella spoke after the game as if he's going to get more looks. Now, whether that's because they got early indications that Zamul is more banged up than they wish he was, I'm not sure. Or if Tortorella just liked him. He's like, yeah, he deserves a couple more games. He noted that similar to Andre, and I think he very much believes this about Emil Andre, he said there are some defensemen in particular who are just better in the NHL than they are in the AHL because the game's more structured. The teammates are better. There's less chaos because just the players on the whole are better. He's wondering, I think, if Helge Grans might be one of those guys. Tonight, he looked good. I don't think he looked amazing. But he looked good. He had a good start. He had good underlying numbers and got a fair amount of shifts in the third period and didn't look out of place. So for a debut, especially for a defenseman who plays the way he plays, which is a little like no frills, not a lot of flash, but just, smooth skating with size, he was good, and he probably does deserve another start. We'll see what happens with York and Drysdale, because I do think they missed, especially Cam York tonight in this game, in terms of moving the puck up ice, in terms of quick transition, and just in terms of general puck carrying ability. Grans doesn't bring that. He's more of a steadying support guy. So if York and Drysdale can play, then maybe Grans goes back down. But if neither of them can play and Zamula's banged up, then yeah, Grans is definitely staying in. And hey, maybe even if one of them can play, maybe Grans stays in. Maybe they bring Zamula out even if he's healthy, because Grans deserved the start. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, York, Andre, Drysdale, they have no one who can move the puck outside of Travis Sanheim. And that's my last question before we get to stars. Charlie, it's becoming a regular thing now that we just praise Travis Sanheim. I don't even know if I have a question, but 31 minutes, over 31 minutes in a 60-minute game, picks up an assist. Again, not perfect, but no one's going to be perfect playing over half the game. I'm out of words for Sanheim. He's just been great this year for the most part. What are you saying?
Yeah, he's been good. This game wasn't, I think, his strongest.
No,
his underlying numbers were pretty bad, but I thought in the third period especially, he took charge. He was making plays. He was jumping up into the play, especially in the offensive zone. He looked like the guy from the last few games in the third period, and there's probably a strong correlation about the fact that the Flyers were their best in the third period when Travis Sanheim was playing like the Travis Sanheim from the last week. So, look, Sanheim's been great. They're obviously leaning on him a lot, probably more than they should, but everybody's hurt. Like, Cam York is the other horse on this blue line. He's been out for a few weeks. Drysdale is a guy you got to shelter, but at least he can move the puck. Andre had been playing really well. Now he's out for however knows how long. Like, they seem to be acting like it was minor, but who knows? As long as those guys are out, Sanheim's going to have to take on a ton of minutes. The hope is that won't go on that much longer, because I don't think him playing 30 minutes a night is sustainable. But in the here and now, he's doing everything he can to help the team, and you got to give him credit.
Yeah, and like, while he may have had, some rough underlyings tonight, once again, Colorado has 3 guys who are better than anyone on the Flyers by a lot. So it just kind of is what it is. All right, Chuck, hit us with those 3 stars, beginning with star number 3.
Yeah, star number 3, I guess I'll go with Helge Grans. I thought he was good. Good debut. Obviously gets his first NHL point. He's getting, heavy amount of minutes, more minutes than I think they expected to give him. Just a strong all-around showing by the rookie, and might have earned himself at least one more game. So for that reason, he's my 3rd star.
Star number 2.
Star number 2, I'll go with one Casey Middling stats. I've long given him crap. Thought that he was a bit overrated in his draft class, and I always got a kick out of that nickname. But he looks like he's found a role, as the 2C on that team. Certainly a dramatic upgrade for them over their former 2C Ryan Johansson, who still is never, will never have actually played a game for the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll see how that contract termination thing works itself out in the end. But Middlestat was good. Obviously scores a big goal that ultimately becomes the game winner when the Flyers have their comeback. So I'm going to go with middling stats. His stats were pretty good tonight. 2nd star.
Charlie, it's funny. Like, before the 3rd goal and Druin got on the score sheet, I read off all the names and was like, the worst player I just named was Casey Middlestat, who would be this team's 1C. So that's just kind of the way it went tonight. Finally, star number 1.
Yeah, star number 1's Kel McCarr. I mean, he scores 2 goals. You could argue he should have scored 3 because that, while I do think that is interference by the letter of the law in today's NHL, it's not a very strong interference call. Like, are you just not allowed to go in the crease now? I guess not. I guess that's the way they are interpreting the interference rule now. But McCarr's great. He's one of at least one of the 10 most talented players in the NHL right now. You could probably debate on whether he's one of the 10 best players in the NHL, but in terms of pure talent, he's certainly in the top 10, and he showed that tonight. When him and McKinnon are on the ice at the same time, it's like a video game. It's like a cheat code. And obviously they hooked up for 1 goal. They hooked up for a 2nd goal that ultimately didn't count. But McCarr's a great player. He's a fantastic defenseman, and he looked every bit the part of it tonight. 1st star of the game, Kel McCarr.
All right, that is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center. You'll actually be in studio with us tomorrow for the 4 o'clock show, so make sure everyone tunes in for that right here on the YouTube page. And until then, Charlie, you enjoy your night.
All right. Bye, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.